Today we heard the news that our country really has dodged what would have been a massive dilemma with the news that Russian President Vladimir Putin will not be attending the BRICS Summit in Johannesburg next month. Well, let's discuss the implications of this with Ndzali Mathebula. She's an assistant lecturer at the Department of Politics and International Relations at the University of Johannesburg. Thank you so much for joining us. You know, this news was huge yesterday, and then the Joburg explosion just took all our attention away. But it really is a very significant development. It's now emerging that there were quite a few discussions that our president had with Vladimir Putin, putting this dilemma to him and then actually discussing it with people within the BRICS bloc. What do you make of the way this has been handled? Do you think our government has actually managed a very tricky situation quite well?
Yes, indeed. Thank you for having me this evening and to the viewers at home. So yes, the government is experiencing a sigh of relief because then we don't have to execute a warrant of arrest or even lose trade agreements with many of our bilateral trade partners within the Western countries. So in essence, the president of Russia not coming to South Africa, it actually nullifies the whole warrant of arrest, whereby South Africa is now safe from the whole dilemma.
Do you think it's caused us any reputational damage nonetheless? Because our country wasn't emphatically clear that they would act on the ICC. And in fact, that's exactly why the DA was taking them to court. That matter, I suppose, now falls away. But do you think there's nonetheless been some perhaps reputational damage to our country?
I wouldn't put it that way. Rather, I would actually assert it as a risk aversion mechanism whereby we had two sides of a dilemma and then we had to weigh which one was better to deal with. So it was a matter of South Africa or our government, the presidency actually reviewing that. Would it be better for us to face criticism globally and domestically due to us not executing the warrant of arrest, or would it actually be better for us to declare a direct war that would threaten South Africa's security? So then I wouldn't say that it's reputational damage. Rather, it has actually granted South Africa an opportunity to review its foreign policy and review its membership with many of the international law courts to actually assess if it helps with our operational resilience going forward. Does it make us more resilient or more susceptible to geopolitical shocks?
It's interesting as well because we've seen the rand has sort of stabilized a little in the past few days, and part of it is, we're being told it's because this issue has been fairly well navigated. And it's interesting because in terms of our relations with other countries, trade is so crucial. BRICS is emphasizing South-South partnerships, that those are very important. Equally, though, of course, our relations with the West. The USA is a massive trading partner, so is Britain, so is Europe. Do you think that South Africa is going to be able to navigate going forward in what seems to be an increasingly polarized dynamic internationally?
So going forward, of course, I have to assert that this Russia-Ukraine war has changed the global order. And I would like to say that it is asserting so much of what we can call the BRICS order, whereby you find the expansion of BRICS. It's now surpassing the G7 GDP globally. So I do believe that it asserts this global changing order, which South Africa has to be in sync with. So the trade really, I do believe that there might be disengagement from our Western trade partners, but then this might actually open ties or open an opportunity for deepened trade relations within the BRICS bloc itself for South Africa. So, yeah.
It's very interesting. It does seem that things are shifting. In terms of reputational damage and tricky areas to navigate, the docking of the Lady R in Simonstown, the port, in December last year, where the US ambassador came out and said absolutely arms were put onto that ship. Our government coming out saying absolutely no, we didn't. It was a back order that was delayed due to COVID. An investigation, I understand, has been completed. The report is still being compiled. We don't know if we're actually going to see it. But that potentially could also be a bump in the road in our international relations. It's quiet for now, but do you think that has potential to cause us some degree of problems in the diplomatic sphere?
Most definitely, because if the investigation is concluded and it is found that South Africa did actually provide weapons to Russia, then we are deemed as a country that's in support of warlords or even war crimes globally. So then that would be a consequence on our end. But then at the same time, I do believe that we can wait for the compiled document to be released in order for us to understand. I do believe that there's more to this issue of the LDR. So it's multifactored, really. So the tenets of what could happen after can only be determined if and when the document is provided and the investigation is complete.
Yeah, so we have to wait and see where that one goes. Thank you so much for chatting to us this evening. Ndzali Mathebula, she's an assistant lecturer at the Department of Politics and International Relations at the University of Johannesburg. In that conversation, we mentioned the rands doing a little better this week.